Hey everybody, this is the week 2 highlight video for the golf class, and I just wanted to talk about some of the key points we hit on earlier today in the class, as well as just breeze through some of the movements that we did and just discuss kind of what's going on. Also keep in mind that in the channel you're going to have all the movement videos, deadlift, the 90-90 hip variations, the split stance with the adductor bias that we'll go through here in a second, etc. on the channel. So if you want to just reach out to me with any questions, maybe a video I didn't upload, maybe you don't understand, feel free and I'll put that in there and just talk with you or discuss with you personally, okay? So first, what did we go over? If you missed the class, you need a refresher, what were some of the big things we hit on? Well, first, what I want you to think about is how do we build, like we talked about in the first class, how do we build that connection from the ground to the hip, right? Week 1, day 1, we talked a lot about how our foot moves in space on the ground, what happens when we extend our knee and when we bend our knee at the foot. How can we feel grounded in the golf swing, okay? Now, through exercise and that joint coupling, we're gonna talk about how the hip responds to that connection point on the ground. As we bend, as we extend, what needs to happen at the hip, okay? Internal and external rotation, okay? And the joint coupling that happens as we lengthen the foot and internally rotate the hip. And then adversely, what happens when we are stiff in the foot and rigid, particularly in that backswing. I'm a lefty here, I'm gonna go to my left side. As I load into the hip, my arch rises. We hit on this in day 1. My arch rises, my hip externally rotates. So there's a joint coupling that happens. On the downswing, it's the exact inverse. My left side here, internal rotation at the hip, my foot needs to yield into the ground. It needs to lengthen. So that being said, what can we do via exercise to work on that joint coupling? Well, first thing is that we did today is I took you guys all to the ground. So I'll just do that here and we'll kind of walk through what's going on, right? And one thing I didn't hit on earlier in class is why I put you guys into that 90-90 position. Well, the 90-degree knee angle, so here is my knee, obviously. This 90-degree position leverages internal rotation the best. So that's a way where we can get the femur, which is this bone that connects the hip to the knee, right? It's the way that we can get the femur to internally rotate. It's by getting the knee in the 90 degrees. So, like I said, the safest way for majority of us to get in that position is on the ground, right? We don't have any gravity. We're not weight bearing. It's very safe. So the 90-90 position is just gonna be this, right? I'll show you here from the front. So I'm gonna get in a position where my feet are not too close together, too close to the midline, and they aren't too far away, okay? I want somewhere in the middle, and the best place in the middle would be that 90-degree angle, okay? So first exercise we did is just a rotation, okay? So we're just gonna rotate into and out of the hip. All right, we did this 10 times today, and you were starting to feel a sensation, particularly in the back side. So my left side here, as I rotate internally, which would mean me rotating to the left, there's that like pinchy sensation going on at the hip. Well, what's going on is your femur is starting to move into a fixed pelvis. So there's a little bit of a rotation, almost like a pinchy sensation, almost like a blockage in a sense. And that's that internal rotation that we're working on in the left side, okay? And we can also, you know, I can spin to the other side, we can do the same thing on the right side, okay? Another exercise we did from this position is the heel to heel. So I'm upright, and then I'm raising my heel, connecting it with my forward heel, and then replacing it. Now what we're doing is we're just starting to invite some sort of movement in that 90-90 position. A great series of movements here to warm up with, whether that's for your training day, heck, even for golf, because like I said, we're really biasing a lot of hip internal rotation. Same thing can be done on the other side. A movement, a drill in the 90-90 series we didn't cover is the shin box rotation. That's one of the ones you guys have for homework. You'll see a video on the YouTube channel, but just really quickly, that looks like this. where you're just sitting tall and you're just gonna roll. All right, I'm just rolling from one side to the other, moving nice and smoothly, and we're using our hands to really position us upright, okay? So those are different movements that we can do in the 90-90 position, to name a few. Another one that we did, which you'll see in the YouTube channel, is the wraparound. We did that one a lot today, okay? That's one thing. We talked a lot about using a PVC pipe to our advantage to invite rotation, a way to build a connection from the hip, from the foot to the hip. So how we can do that, and it doesn't have to be a PVC pipe, it can be a golf club, it can be a broom, it can be anything you have around the house, okay? So what we would do is we would split our stance, and I want you to load a little bit more on your front side. So almost like a 60-40 weight shift. 60% is on my lead leg, 40% is on the back leg, and less of this and more of this. So notice the position here. This would be very knee dominant, almost like squatty. This is more hingy, okay? And I'm already feeling it in my glutes here. And then with the PVC pipe, all we're doing is we're just rotating into and out of that hip. Into the hip, out of the hip. And as I'm moving here, I'm trying to get my shoulder right in line with the kneecap. So we're working on stabilizing in the glute. We're working on rotating into and out of the hip. And you'll be able to feel that almost instantly. I love using the PVC pipe or, golf club, these sort of drills where you're rotating from a split stance before golf, before tennis, anything rotational, baseball. I mean, this all applies to working on that hip rotation using a pipe and just rotating into and out of the hip via drills like this, okay? So that's one thing we talked about today. Some other drills that we did or exercises that we did when you guys were broken apart into small groups was the squat. So very simply, right? The squat is you translating your weight just straight down, okay? It's a knee dominant movement. There's no center of mass shift forward or backward. So what I mean by that is where your weight, your center of mass, would be translating forward or backwards. So neither happens, neither is intended to happen in the squat. It's just down, straight down, okay? So naturally your knees are gonna come over your toes, which is fine, but I just want you going straight down and up on the squat. And one way to do that, like we talked about, was lifting the heels up. So you can grab some small plates and lift your heels up, and that's just gonna allow you to get deeper in the range of motion, okay? Another exercise we talked about is the split stance lunge, or the split stance squat rather, with an adductor bias. So all that means is a fancy way of saying, how can we get into a position where we are kicking on your adductors, which is like your inner thigh musculature that actually wraps, the adductors actually wrap around your glutes. So if you can kick on, what you guys felt today, which will kick on the glutes. So one simple way we can do that, another one of my favorites, is take you to a wall, to a box, wherever, and we're setting up a foam roller about knee height, widthwise away from the wall, and you're just going down into a lunge or a split squat and then up, okay? So I'm not going all the way down and I'm not going all the way up. I'm operating kind of in this middle ground where we're down and up, down and up. And in terms of intensity, you're kind of pushing the foam roller about 7 out of 10 in terms of intensity on the wall, okay? And then finally, what I wanted to cover really quickly was just the deadlift, okay? Deadlift is, now we're shifting our weight back, okay? The squat was center of mass goes straight down and up, very vertical. This is kind of more of a horizontal translation. So I'm just gonna grab a dumbbell here as an example. You can use a dumbbell or a kettlebell, and one thing we did today in the class was just practicing that deadlift, right? We're sending our weight back. Pressure is in the heel, almost like you can wiggle your toes here at the front, and you're already feeling it with this hinge, and you guys were already feeling it in the back side, okay? The musculature that needs to be recruited, in the deadlift would be glutes, hamstring, low back. Once again, as we rotate into the hip, we're trying to load into that side. So the glute is the biggest rotator in the body, right? We need to store a lot of that energy into the glute as we transition from the backswing to the downswing. So a lot of that storage happens at the glute. We need ample amount of rotation and torque. So exercises to build up that posterior chain, the backside of the body, like a deadlift would be fantastic for that. And that's why, as we'll talk about later in like the programming stuff, deadlifts can be done multiple times a week, 2 to 3 times a week to work on your ability to load into your backside, okay? So I know we covered a lot in this video. We went a little long, I apologize. There's just a lot of things that I want to get across here, especially for the people that missed the class. I think it was only a select few amount today, a little bit less than last week, which is great. So if you guys have any questions at all about anything we covered, feel free. You have my email, you have my cell phone. Reach out to me, and yeah, we will go from there. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Do a couple more of the homework sessions, which are found in the email, and then just stay tuned to the YouTube channel where I'm covering all of the different movements, a couple key points of performance, and just you'll see me breaking down via video the movement, and so you can see exactly what it looks like in case you forgot about what the movement was based on the words. So, all right, everybody, take care. We will see you next Monday. Have a great week.